In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus' first words after the resurrection were a call to set aside fear and to journey to Galilee, where Jesus said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." In a world saturated with forces that pose as authority, Easter is a reminder that the seductive powers of today are decisively defeated by Jesus. Easter is a call to live in the identity and authority found in Jesus in the light of eternity. But in the interim, Jesus is present with those who experience brutal and forlorn suffering as the time-constrained powers of this world rage. If there was ever a moment accurately described as God forsaken, it would be when Jesus himself cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" In his crucifixion, Jesus identifies with the suffering of the world. And in his resurrection, Jesus demonstrates an authority of eternity that will cause the old order of things to pass away and everything to be made new. Easter is a paradoxical call to live in hope as we join Jesus in laying down our lives. At the crucifixion, two witnesses model this willingness: Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, both members of the Sanhedrin, which had just condemned Jesus to death in a private home filled with false witnesses. They chose this moment of pain and injustice to identify with Jesus. As the Savior of the world hung in the quiet of the dead, it was a courageous response to publicly identify with a body that had been left to rot on the side of a hill with the approval of the government, with the approval of the religious leaders, and as the most powerful army in the world wielded the hammer. These Easter witnesses, without an empty resurrection tomb or guarantee of personal security, chose to separate from the silent majority in identification with a body deemed disposable. There are far too many bodies deemed disposable today. In the war in Ukraine, tortured bodies have been left to decompose for weeks on the side of the road or in hastily dug mass graves. In a world where 500 million have contracted COVID-19, North American and European countries hoard vaccines in the name of security while casually denying life-saving medicines. In total economic collapses in Sri Lanka, Lebanon, and Venezuela, a corrupt few somehow seem to maintain control while condemning millions to suffering and starvation. In Nigeria, children are held for ransom, while in Myanmar, millions are refugees while the military targets its own civilians. Babies are discarded. Racist violence stretches its sinful legacy. In every city, the homeless and those who work in deep poverty for daily bread are easily ignored, or even worse, whose struggle is rationalized. Where Jesus' crucifixion is identification with all whom have been deemed disposable, Joseph and Nicodemus are a call to serve precisely in these moments with resurrection hope. Joseph and Nicodemus, who had been secret disciples, were transformed as they cared for Jesus' body and publicly gave out of their own resources. In these acts of service, God used them in a powerful way, just as God can use you. Like Joseph and Nicodemus, we are to join Jesus in the pain and the sin of this world in a journey of courage, hope, and service. Jesus is alive. We can therefore hear those first post-resurrection words and set aside our fear and journey into pain with service that proclaims with courage that hope, peace, and resurrected new life is possible today and promised in Jesus for eternity. This Easter, on behalf of the Baptist World Alliance, a family in 128 countries and territories, proclaiming that all authority in heaven and on earth is in Jesus. Let us serve in the hope and the courage of eternity.